This video is brought to you by Altium 365, where the world designs electronics, and Octopart, the fastest search engine for electronic parts.
Get a free copy of Altium software using the link provided in this video description. Plus, when you sign up for an Altium Designer free trial, you will get Altium 365 and 25% off discount. Hi guys! Welcome again for another video. Today, we're gonna learn some common mistakes in designing a PCB. Let's get started. So this is a sample PCB I've created. It is important to know these mistakes so you can be able to have a good result in designing PCB. So let's go first for the schematic library. In creating a schematic library, sometimes the required component is not available on the library loader or even in the internet, so we will do it manually. In doing it manually, the mistake I've been seeing here is that when you put manually the manufacturer part number and manufacturer name, it can be mixed or you can put the wrong part number. Also, in linking it in the footprint, some mistakes are you are linking it in the wrong package. So make sure when you link the footprint on your schematic library, you're connecting it or linking it in the correct package. Because when you're in component placement stage, the problem will arise in component placement. So make sure when linking the footprint in your created schematic library, make sure that you link the correct package according to the manufacturer part number. Another mistake I'm seeing in creating a library is that you forgot to link it to the PCB library. So when you forgot to link it in the PCB library, the tendency is that you will not be able to proceed with the engineering change order prior the component placement, because it will search for the link component and there can be error in engineering change order that the footprint is not found. So make sure after you create the schematic library and before you proceeding to another component, make sure that there's a footprint link in your schematic library. So to add the footprint in your schematic library, just click add footprint here, and here you can input the name of your footprint and where it is located. And if you want to check all the components, just go to your schematic doc and click on Tools, Update from Libraries, then make sure that all components are checked, then click Next. And you can see here that all libraries are complete and all components have link footprint. Next we go in creating a PCB library or footprint. So some mistakes in creating a PCB library or footprint is the dimensions itself. So in creating a PCB library, of course, you're pertaining to a datasheet in order to complete the footprint. So the datasheet will be based on the specific manufacturer part number. So for this case, for this example, it is a micro SD card. Then this is the datasheet of the micro SD card. So in creating a PCB library, make sure that you follow the correct dimensions, because if there will be a lapse in the dimension, there can be a problem in the actual PCB when the actual component is going to mount on the PCB. So there is a possibility that the pads will not touch on the actual pins of the component. So there can be a problem in assembly. Now we go with the component placement. So I think the most crucial part of the PCB design is the component placement, because if you place the component much better, then the layout will be much easier. So in component placement, make sure when you're placing the components in the PCB, the rat's nets are shown. So as you can see, this line are called rat's net. This is where you can see the connection of the components. So in component placement, the rat's nets are important because you can see the preview of the connection of the component. And you can plan it right away on where to place the component much better. So in component placement, some mistakes is that the component is placed far away from its connection. So when you're in routing, it will be harder for you to connect the components because the components are far away from each other. So make sure that you place the components near on its connection. So for me, a good placement can lead you to a better routing in the layout. Now we go with the layout. So some mistakes in layout is not considering the trace width. So the trace width is based on the requirement of the net. So for this example, This pad has the ground net and this pin 7 is only a regular pin. So, if you have in your design a regular connection or it doesn't need a thick trace, so you can just route it on your PCB. But for this one, for example, this ground net, so it cannot be just route it like this one. Because this is a power, we need it to pour it in the polygon. So it will be much more copper that connects to the ground. So this is an example of pouring the power or ground in the polygon. As you can see, there's a relief in the part of the ground and there will be much more copper connected to the ground. Next mistake in layout is not considering the clearance. So the clearance is important because the more the object is closer to each other, the more the board quality is at risk. So it is much better to have the clearance more wider between objects, especially the trace, and you can set it in the rules. So in accessing the design rules, just click on design, then rules. This is where you can edit the clearance. So you can also add another rule for specific rules you want to edit depending on the object you want to call out. Another thing you need to add in order to have a better PCB design and a better signal integrity result in your PCB is the layer stack up. So when you have a PCB that requires controlled impedances or critical traces, it is better to route it on layers that is sandwiched by ground. So for this case, it is just a 2-layer board, but you can add a layer here and a plain layer. So that's all for the common mistakes in PCB design. I hope you learned something from this video. Thank you for watching.